Okay.
Yeah,
So
we're back.
So this feature,
Quarterfinals. Who are we gonna watch?
this feature match is with Kadej Angelo again, so Gash Mentor, and Pascal Wagner, which we commented the first streaming with Storm, Doomsday Maniac Storm.
Right. If I had to pick among the two decks, like between the two decks, I probably want to be Doomsday right now.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, nothing wrong against the kind of permission package that Gash Mentor has. It's just like I don't really like being the one playing creatures that don't really do anything. And the Storm deck is always faster than you anyway. So if you have to figure out who's the beatdown between, in the matchup, who's the beatdown, who's the aggressive one, who's the control one, who's gonna be proactive, probably Doomsday is gonna be proactive. Even though Gash Mentor has a way of, winning games fast by dropping a Mentor, you really don't want to tap out and play a Mentor and just see your opponent storming in your face anyway. So if I had to pick, I'll definitely go for Doomsday, regardless of the players.
In this matchup, in respect to the previous ones with Wagner, in which he lowered his life points considerably with the Gitaxian Probe, remember we discussed that life points weren't that important. In this matchup, I think that they are going to be important.
Yeah, they definitely are. They definitely are. The only problem with the Gash Mentor deck is I think in this matchup it's very dependent on a couple of moxes. Because if you can drop the Mentor fast, then you can be on the aggression. On the other hand, if Mentor comes down turn 2 or 3, then that means you have to tap out just in order to place your threat down, and you're probably not going to be able to survive the following turn. Obviously, Doomsday can kind of win the game on the spot anyway, so it doesn't even have to do much. I mean, it doesn't have to build his own hand and shape his own hand before winning. I mean, you can literally just Doomsday for the win.
It's going to be definitely interesting, as both players are really good at maneuvering their decks, and I'm hopeful we will see some very good matchups, a very good match between these two guys.
Yeah, let's just have a quick look at the kind of we just started off with Land Preordain, and Kadej is considering a play here because it does have a mental misstep, or it is at least representing it.
Do you think that against...
And that's Library. How does Library change the matchup here? How fast does Wagner have to be, not to be overwhelmed by the card advantage that Library provides?
Of course, with Library down, every turn gives Kadej an extra card, possibly. Oh, okay, well.
Kadej doesn't have a mana source. I mean, he only has like a Mox Pearl. So
he kept a very risky hand.
Yeah, he doesn't have access to his 2 red blasts. So he did keep a risky hand. I'm not gonna lie. He does have a few mental missteps. At least 2 of them. He has 2 mental missteps, 2 red mental blasts, a Mox. So he's desperately looking for like a fetch land or something. And what he's gonna do here is just gonna mental misstep the Duress. Meaning, I don't want you to see what I'm holding, especially because he's holding a second misstep. And Wagner probably wants to go off as fast as he can, not to give Kadej the chance to draw like 3-4 extra cards of Library.
Gives a pretty nice boost.
Oh, okay. So that's Lotus into a second Duress. Now, Is there a second misstep of Kadai? And once
Well,
you're going off, you're probably just going off, right? There is a
Still
second.
doesn't want to. I think he's gonna. He played the misstep. Just he doesn't want to Wagner to know how short on mana he is. So you want to hide as much information as possible.
Does he have a third misstep?
Yeah, he
It
has.
does have a third misstep. This is quite unreal, and
Well,
you can see that Wagner is impressed, and he does say go. Well, at least
So he
Kadai
kept
is
with
out
3
of
missteps.
library. Yeah. At least Kadai is out of library. He's back in library now. It does have Volcanic Island, so now he has access to a couple of Elemental Blasts. Even though not the best permission in the matchup, because all the
But he can still,
key spells are black.
You
Right?
can still counter all the draw cards, all the cards that permit Wagner to access to refine his hand. So they're not gonna be a dead card anyway.
Interestingly enough, Kadai decides to, go on the offensive and draw in his main phase. Right. Here's a spell that you can counter with your blast. The only thing Kadai is probably thinking about is what if he does have a duress? Then I'm out of library for one turn. But I mean, it does have a gush as well, so it's not it's not the
not gonna be
biggest.
a problem.
It's not a big deal.
Still hiding his hand.
So the problem with drawing with library in your main phase is that you're kind of not gonna say committed to draw again in your main phase, but that's what you're mostly likely to do. I mean, if you start drawing in your main phase, then
You don't want to miss
you
another
really
turn.
don't want to stop, do you?
Yeah. Okay.
Here's a mentor.
Now he preferred to play Moxes before the Mentor.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. I mean, he did choose to play his Mox Jet before playing Mentor, which can only mean that he does have two possible spells.
We know he has a Pyroblast.
He only has a Fire Blast, but he might be able to gush into a second spell. Is it gonna be lethal next turn? I mean, can he play enough spells in order to, just make 18 damage in 2 turns? Because it's quite possible.
Well, you definitely can gush and then see what. I mean, Wagner. Wagner has quite a lot of cards in his hand, so
Wagner has a few cards.
yeah. So he might want just to try to rush it a little bit, but without exposing itself too much.
Here's his land drop. He has 2 floating mana, so you can just play a Duck Faden. Probably not the best card in the matchup,
No, it's not.
but it's literally just making another 1/1, and he can draw to
Yeah, he can
discard
still
too, so.
try to find something stronger to oppose to Wagner.
He still hasn't drawn into any Force of Wills, so
No,
that's what he's looking for.
I think I saw the fourth
misstep.
misstep. Yeah.
Still, I mean, if you're sitting back on the 4th misstep and a red blast. That might be enough, especially since you're gonna draw another extra card of library in Wagner's turn.
And you're gonna have 2 extra tokens in play.
Yeah, exactly. So in a way, I mean, 14 means. Okay, Wagner just scooped. Okay, it's fair enough.
So, all in all, Kadei decided to keep a very risky hand. Probably the hand did have already 3 missteps, and with library.
To be fair, I mean, if you're on the draw against a storm deck and you're just sitting back on your library, it's quite risky. Then again, it depends how many duresses your opponent plays. If you lead with like land duress, then you're out of library straight away.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden your hand becomes like so much worse. And also that means on turn 1, yeah, you do have missteps, but you don't really want to use them, because you're really looking for the extra card of library. I mean, keeping with library as the only land, you're only gonna do that if you base your whole game plan around library, unless you obviously you draw like a volcanic island or a fashion, and that allows you to do something else. But I mean, the only reason for you to keep this hand is library, so you don't really want to get out of library on turn 1.
So, sideboarding wise,
If I'm Kadei, I probably see a couple of Rest in Peace and the Mind Break Trap. I mean, is he gonna sideboard Rest in Peace? He might do.
well,
Not the best interaction with Jace.
No, not at all.
Not the best interaction with a few cards that you play. Like, you do have 4 Jace, Dig Through Time, and Treasure Cruise. So if you want to sideboard in like a couple of Rest in Peace, which are decent against Storm, I mean that's gonna just weaken your whole game plan, like by a mile.
Wagner is gonna side for sure Dread of Night, just to keep the tokens at bay, and I don't see much else.
Yeah, it's very strange. Like, we haven't seen many sideboard cards being put in
No.
like throughout the day, which means either we haven't seen the matchups all these sideboards are designed to beat, or I mean they might have done some weird like decisions with their sideboard cards. To be fair, I mean, is there any better card than Rest in Peace playing in a deck that has like 4 Jaces, Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise? Isn't there like anything better than Dig Through Time than Rest in Peace?
I don't think so. I mean,
because obviously if you're playing black, I've seen people playing cards like Nihil Spellbomb or good old like Tormod Crypt or something. But Rest in Peace doesn't strike me as the best choice for a sideboard head.
talking about Nihil Spellbomb, that's something that Wagner could side in just to make sure that Kadei doesn't go in recursion with the graveyard thanks to Jace. So players are drawing the cards right now. Kadei has, I think he has just a 1 land hand again.
They both keep. Wagner leads with Preordain. He does have a Tendril in his hand, so it's kind of like a mulligan to 6 already.
Wagner building his hand again, sculpting it in order to make it better. You think he might be going, since he has Tendril in his hand, you think he might be trying to...
There are definitely situations
storm.
in which you can try and, steal the game out of nowhere. But he does have Night Whisper in his hand, which is, in this matchup seems like a really decent card. Being black, not being, you're not able to counter that. He plays around Mental Misstep, he plays around Pyroblasts. So do you really, want to waste a counter spell on that? Maybe not. But overall, it seems like a decent card. Again, Kadei trying to be proactive with a Jace. And there you go. Here's the Night Whisper.
Yep. Third land for Wagner. And
I could see a Mystical Tutor in his hand, and also the rest. So he wants to see what he's up against. Kadei has
another Jace.
Oh, okay. Is that a Mental Misstep, the last one?
The last one is a Mental Misstep. Duress.
It's very interesting to me how players decide to use their Mental Missteps. It seems like it's not always an obvious decision. Like sometimes I don't want you to know what I'm playing against, what you're playing against. Sometimes I want to cover like my 6 cards and not let you cantrip into anything. But in this case, both players they don't really care about sharing informations with each other.
So Wagner has a pretty fat hand with Mystical Misstep, Fluster, Doomsday, and Tendrils, Gush, and Duress. So he has a lot of cards to work his strategy, as long as counter spells and permission.
Se già posso riprendere. Quanti ne avete?
He decided to discard the second Jace.
Oh, is that
And to
an enter?
play, yeah, tries to rush immediately.
Yeah, he's trying to rush things.
Yeah,
to
probably.
be honest, he does have 2 permissions. He's playing with a Mental Misstep and the Flusterstorm. So it does make sense, try to be proactive in this case.
Also, by seeing how much Wagner has in his hand, he needs to be proactive. You don't want to just sit down and try just to oppose to what Wagner might do.
Mystical Tutor gets scribbled out of the list of cards that Kadei knows.
Now he's thinking about, okay, he lets it pass.
Alright, he's going for Dark Ritual.
You think Wagner might be trying to...
I think Wagner is gonna try and go for it.
Okay.
I think he's gonna go for it. He probably has enough. He can lead off with a duress. Yeah, that's what he does. See what he's up against. Obviously, Wagner's problem is if he doesn't win this turn, he might as well be dead.
Yeah, due to all the tokens.
Yeah, exactly.
They facing a hard decision.
Does he have 2 missteps?
Yeah,
I think he has 2 missteps and the Flusterstorm. So in this case, he might as well just counter that. And he does. Did he miss the soldier trigger?
That's what I was thinking.
I think he missed that soldier trigger.
Why? Doesn't make the monk?
He missed the trigger, I think. This could actually make a difference.
Second misstep from Kadei, targeting duress. And maybe second missed trigger.
Wagner knows about Flusterstorm.
Yeah.
So he tries an answer with Dark Vision.
Nevertheless, he's trying to. He's okay with it. So it resolves.
The funny part is, Kadei has a fetch land. Alright, okay. I see where this is going.
Yeah.
So once the ritual resolves, then there's no more space for Flusterstorm anyway. Because then there's just gonna be like a deadly Tendril after that. To be fair, I mean, Wagner always had one more answer to what Kadei had. Kadei was, let's say, only sitting on double misstep and Flusterstorm, while Wagner had duress, misstep, Flusterstorm, and a threat.
Yeah.
So this is literally what happens. I mean, Kadei's deck obviously has like a few cards that don't do anything, like Jace, like Mentor, like all these cards. While Wagner deck is much more streamlined. The only cards that don't really do anything are like Tendril in his hand or
Doomsday.
Pretty much Doomsday if you can't cast it. But 1-on-1, if you're trying to play the attrition against Kadei's deck, you're probably gonna win. If you just trade 1-for-1, all your missteps and everything. And that's probably why both players don't like playing the missteps on like cantrips or Gitaxian probes or ponders and stuff. That they keep them for like key spells like duress and such.
But do you think it's still a good option against a combo deck? Do you think that not misstepping his cantrips is still a good idea? Because if
I mean,
don't,
sometimes I would be greedy and just try to say, you know what, I don't want to show you my hand. I'm just gonna misstep your Judaxian probe. This sometimes could work, but then again, in Vintage, you're playing against a combo deck, and you don't have like infinite permission spells. So they might always go like, yeah, all right, then like I'll go Losus and Dark Ritual, whatever, you're dead. So it is very, very, very complicated. Like sometimes misstepping something could be great, could be a great idea, and sometimes it could be like a horrible idea. Then again, I don't want my opponent with Storm knowing exactly what I'm playing with at all times.
They opening again with library and Jace. Maybe he's been a little bit floating. But he decides to keep. Okay, this is interesting. He kept with library even if he knew he wasn't gonna activate it.
Yeah, being on the play with library against a deck with Duress.
Way worse.
Yeah, probably not the best. Like leading like library goal doesn't really make much sense because you're playing against a deck with Duress and Thoughtseize. If they strip one card off your hand, you just lost your chance to play Jace on turn 1.
Wagner probing Kadei and seeing not much of threats in his hand.
So he knows he's playing against the Gush, a land library, and the mystery card, which I couldn't really understand what that was. Thoughtseize.
Yeah. Wagner really wanna thin Kadei's hand.
This is interesting, the singleton street mine.
Yeah.
See what happens with Jace.
That only land denial that Kadei has seems to. Oh, was it Jarola? It seems always to work. Do you
Wagner
think?
has a second land, and a third one as well.
Do you think that it's a good deck building idea to have a single strip mine in a deck which doesn't really do denial?
The best thing the strip mine does is literally getting rid of your opponent library, I think. I mean, strip mine is great to answer library. Also, it is quite good in a meta game against Gush. In the right time. I mean, if your opponent, let's say, if you're on the play, your opponent only has like a land and a mox or something, and if you strip mine,
he cannot gush.
Or for example, after they gush, then they might be behind, and then you can just strip mine them. Overall, in a meta game with gushes, I'm not a big fan of strip mine, but I think it's just a necessary evil in the deck, just to have an answer not to scoop to libraries, or you know, just in case you're gonna play against your random whatever dredge deck or something. Or yeah, overall I think the deck can easily do without it.
Also because that is the second colorless land that
Yeah.
deck has. So,
I'm not sure whether you can afford it.
yeah. So Kadai building up his Jays up to 6. Vampiric Tutor for Wagner. Kadai misstep in it.
Yeah, interestingly enough, Kadai decided not to flashback his Ancestral this turn because he's sitting on Force of Will and Misstep, so he probably thinks that's enough.
Yeah, he probably feels pretty safe right now. So. Now he's flashbacking the Ancestral.
The thing about the Storm deck is the Storm deck is not really good at being reactive. I mean, once your opponent is in the driver's seat, yeah, you can come back, but you cannot fight them like piece by piece. You literally have to do something big.
Yeah,
or
you don't
like
have
either
enough
storm them
resources
out
to
inside.
fight them back and
Yeah,
do your thing.
yeah.
Wagner thinking really hard on this Ancestral. He's probably facing the problem you just punctured out.
Yeah, the thing with Storm is they need to try and find the correct time to place their threat. Tutor probably not. I wouldn't even try and call that a threat. It's just playing card disadvantage. He's trying to protect the spell, but he's playing against.
Is that a misdirection? I think he tutored a misdirection.
He's playing against Flusterstorm and Force of Will.
Yeah, he has one misdirection main deck. So drawing the misdirection and the extra card with Gash, leaving him with no permanence on the board.
If he can misdirect an Ancestral on himself, he can really turn this game
That's
around.
a really
The problem is
huge
he
advantage.
doesn't know that Kadei has a Flusterstorm. Unless he has a Flusterstorm of his own, which is also possible.
And it's game. Well, if he managed to misdirect that Ancestral, he might
still
have
back in the game, yeah.
3 extra cards.
Yeah. As we said, I mean, playing against Flusterstorm is so frustrating for a Storm player.
So this concludes the feature match for the quarterfinals.
We're gonna be back shortly with the semifinals. So we're gonna be back shortly with the semifinals. In the meanwhile, we're gonna just send over a couple of videos for you to watch while we wait for all the rest of the quarterfinals to be over. It shouldn't be too long. Hi everyone. Following Pro Tour out of the Gatewatch, I wanted to talk to you about a deck that I suppose is really well positioned in the format. The deck went 9-1 in the constructed portion. No idea about the limited record, but it was probably quite poor considering that it didn't make top 8. But if it did make top 8, it might as well won the whole thing. Right. The deck name is Kiki Chord, even though that's wrong because it doesn't play any Kiki Jikis or anything. The actual deck name is Chord. Right. It's a white, green, and black deck. The classic sort of calling shell. He's playing a full set of Birds of Paradise, Noble Hierarch, and Wall of Roots, which is the mana accelerations. 23 lands, and that's actually the basic of the deck. The actual combo is composed of 4 Archangel of Toon and 3 Spike Feeders, which basically means that you're going to gain infinite lives and pump your creatures like to infinite or whatever. Which means you're single-handedly going to win against most decks in the format, the ones that attack your life total, say Eldrazi or Mono Red or Affinity or whatever. If you pull the combo off, you are going to win against most of the format. The decks against which you're not going to win if you actually pull off the combo are the ones that are like horrible matchups to start with. The deck is mostly composed of creatures. It literally just plays 3 spells, 3 Path to Exile, which are just a concession to the format, I suppose, if you need to just survive until you pull the combo off. Also, it has a few silver bullets, like a few one-off, like Lords of Pontiff, Qasali Pride Mage, and Scavenging Ooze. They're just decent cards that you can just tutor for with your Chord of Calling sometimes. Right. Lingering Soul is one of the best cards in the format at the moment because it single-handedly beats Affinity, and it does slow down Eldrazi, and it slows down a few other decks. Also, Cursor of Crofix, probably not the best card in Modern, but it helps thin the deck and also not miss a land drop. Also, it kind of works well with Archangel of Toon. If you don't have the Spike Feeder, it's still going to pump your creatures. That also works well with like Gavony Township, because you do have a way of winning games just by playing a bunch of creatures and pumping them with Gavony Townships or Archangel of Toon's triggers. The deck is functioning like pretty straightforward. It has a good game one against any creatures, Affinity, Eldrazi, Mono Red, any creature-based deck with no combo. It can pull the combo off as fast as turn 4, I assume, which is the average speed, the average kill for most modern decks. Obviously, Lingering Souls helps you out not dying to just a bunch of 4/4s. It's not very resilient to discard spells or counter spells, and that's why you don't really want to play against blue decks. You don't really want to play against permissions. You
they don't really exist, but you don't want to play against those decks, and you want to just survive and then pull your combo off. The sideboard helps you out against a few matchups. It has a few one-off, Canonist, Barenton, Melira and Sigarda. Canonist is a concession to Storm decks, concession to Ad Nauseam decks. Those are awful matchups anyway. You do have free Thought Seizes, but let's say you're not really favored against those. Painful Truths, a decent card, like 3 mana draw 3 against most decks in the format, it's quite decent. Stony Silence, just a kill more, a win more against Affinity. And Worship, probably one of the best sideboard cards against everything. It's a win more against every single creature deck. Melira is a concession to Infect. It's like a one-off to tutor with Chord. You don't actually have any combo with Melira. It's literally just not to die against Infect. So we can't really say against most decks, placing Worship in play and Barenton if they play red. Just Worship by itself is probably enough against decks that only have, let's say, the Powder Keg effect, like Eldrazi. Affinity cannot possibly beat Worship. Most creatures they cannot beat Worship. Even though they might have like sideboard cards to get rid of Stony Silence, so it's pretty much the same. But if you obviously, if they get rid of one, they don't get rid of the other one. So overall, I would say this deck is a really good choice. You're obviously going to scoop to decks like Ad Nauseam or Storm. There's no chance you're going to win game 1. Even if you went to Infinite Life against Ad Nauseam, they might still have Laboratory Maniac, and they're going to just kill you just by not drawing any cards. So overall, I think the deck is very well positioned in the format, and it's definitely a decent choice if you assume you're going to play against loads of Eldrazi's, loads of Affinities, and loads of creature-based decks. that we're out of the Gatewatch, I wanted to talk to you about a deck that I suppose is really well positioned in the format. The deck went 9-1 in the constructed portion. No idea about the limited record, but it was probably quite poor considering that it didn't make top 8. But if it did make top 8, it might as well won the whole thing. Right, the deck name is Kiki Chord, even though that's wrong because it doesn't play any Kiki Jikis or anything. The actual deck name is Chord. Right, it's a white, green, and black deck. The classic sort of calling shell. He's playing a full set of Birds of Paradise, Noble Hierarch, and Wall of Roots, which is the mana accelerations. 23 lands, and that's actually the basic of the deck. The actual combo is composed of 4 Archangel of Tune and 3 Spike Feeders, which basically means that you're going to gain infinite lives and pump your creatures like to infinite or whatever. Which means you're single-handedly going to win against most decks in the format, the ones that attack your life total, say Eldrazi or Mono Red or Affinity or whatever. If you pull the combo off, you are going to win against most of the format. The decks against which you're not going to win if you actually pull off the combo are the ones that are like horrible matchups to start with. The deck is mostly composed of creatures. It literally just plays 3 spells, 3 Path to Exile, which are just a concession to the format, I suppose, if you need to just survive until you pull the combo off. Also, it has a few silver bullets, like a few one-off, like Lords of Pontiff, Qasali Pridemage, and Scavenging Ooze. They're just decent cards that you can just tutor for with your Chord of Calling sometimes. Right. Lingering Soul is one of the best cards in the format at the moment because it single-handedly beats Affinity, and it does slow down Eldrazi and it slows down a few other decks. Also, Cursor of Crowfix, probably not the best card in Modern, but it helps thin the deck and also not miss a land drop. Also, it kind of works well with Archangel of Tune. If you don't have the Spike Feeder, it's still going to pump your creatures. That also works well with like Gavony Township, because you do have a way of winning games just by playing a bunch of creatures and pumping them with Gavony Townships or Archangel of Tune's triggers. The deck is functioning like pretty straightforward. It has a good game 1 against any creatures, Affinity, Eldrazi, Mono Red, any creature-based deck with no combo. It can pull the combo off as fast as turn 4, I assume, which is the average speed, the average kill for most modern decks. Obviously, Lingering Souls helps you out not dying to just a bunch of 4/4s. It's not very resilient to discard spells or counter spells, and that's why you don't really want to play against blue decks. You don't really want to play against permissions. They don't really exist, but you don't want to play against those decks. And you want to just survive and then pull your combo off. The sideboard helps you out against a few matches.